You're standing behind a tiny fabric stall in a crowded market in Ho Chi Minh City. The table in front of you is stacked with colorful cloth. If you sell everything today, you might make enough money to cover rent and dinner. Not exactly billionaire money. But markets are great classrooms. Every day you watch people bargain. You watch people bluff. You watch people lie about prices with a perfectly straight face. And you learn something important. The richest people walking through the market are never the ones selling things. They're the ones who own the buildings around it. And that thought sticks with you. Because decades from now, prosecutors will say you secretly controlled a financial system that moved $13 billion through a single bank. But right now, you're just trying to sell fabric. But selling cloth teaches you patience. Unfortunately, patience is terrible for building empires. So you start saving money and looking for bigger opportunities. Real estate catches your attention. Buildings don't expire like fabric. And when property prices rise, they rise fast. So you leave the market behind and move into property development. Somewhere along the way, your beauty catches the attention of a wealthy businessman from Hong Kong, and he ends up falling for you. And boom, you just hit the jackpot. You recognize your opportunity to get rich instantly, especially when opportunity can take you out of the dirty market you've been working in. So together you launch a company called Van Thin Fat. At first, it's just another development company. You buy land, you sell land, you build buildings. Nothing revolutionary. But Vietnam's cities are growing fast. Office towers appear, hotels appear, apartment buildings appear, and you start buying more land, then more, then more. Before long, your company is involved in projects across Ho Chi Minh City. Things are moving quickly, until you discover the biggest problem with real estate. Real estate eats money. Buying land costs millions. Construction takes years. And while buildings are being built, your money is stuck doing absolutely nothing. You're looking for fast money, but banks control the loans. And banks move slowly. Then one day, an idea hits you. Around 2010, several Vietnamese banks start struggling. The global financial crisis shook the economy. Investors are quietly selling shares. Most people see a risky investment. You see something much better. Because if you control a bank, you control the money. There's just one problem. Vietnamese law says no single person can own too much of a bank. But laws are funny things. Sometimes they can be rearranged. So you create a company. That company buys a few shares in Saigon Commercial Bank. Then you create another company. That company buys more shares. Then another. Then another. Soon your friends own companies. Then your business partners own more companies. Then all of your companies own other companies. Some of them barely do anything except exist on paper. Individually, they look harmless. Just normal investors buying shares. But behind the scenes, every road leads back to you. By the time everything is finished, your network controls about 90% of the bank. And almost nobody realizes it. Congratulations! You now control a machine holding billions of dollars in deposits. Most people borrow money from banks. You just arrange things so the bank can lend money to you. Now the machine starts running. Companies start stacking on top of each other. Layers form. Soon there are hundreds, eventually over 1,000. Some of them run real estate projects. Some of them apply for loans. Some exist mainly to sign paperwork. Others sit overseas in places like the Cayman Islands. Now the real game begins. Company A borrows money from the bank. Company B buys land. Company C invests in Company A. Company D signs paperwork to make everything look normal. When one company has bad credit, another company applies for the loan instead. When land needs to look more valuable, you buy nearby property at ridiculous prices. Suddenly the land value skyrockets. Perfect collateral, perfect loan application. The machine keeps running. Money flows in, buildings go up, luxury hotels, apartment towers, office complexes. Your empire spreads across the skyline, and for a while, everything works perfectly. But running a giant financial machine has one annoying problem: the regulators. Sometimes regulators start asking questions, sometimes investigators want paperwork, and sometimes people inside the bank get a little curious. So you start solving problems the traditional way. You meet government officials, you have friendly conversations, sometimes red envelopes appear, sometimes favors happen. Some regulators suddenly become much less interested in digging deeper. Other people inside the system decide it's safer not to ask too many questions. Your loan applications even start receiving special treatment. Inside the bank, they get marked with a code. Employees see the code and immediately know what it means. Move this loan quickly. Don't slow things down. Money begins moving faster than normal banking procedures would ever allow. Now you have access to more money than almost anyone on Earth. Billions of dollars moving through the system. Real estate projects everywhere. From the outside, your empire looks unstoppable. But people start noticing. Your bank's depositors start asking questions. And your investors begin to worry. Investigators begin examining the bank's loan records. At first, they notice something small. The same companies appear again and again. Interesting. So they look closer. They compare ownership documents. They map connections between companies. Soon, they notice something strange. Many of these companies share the same addresses. Some share the same directors. Others share the same investors. That's odd. So investigators keep digging. They build charts. They draw connections. And slowly, a giant web begins to appear. Hundreds of companies tied together. Loans moving between the same group. Billions flowing through the same bank. What looked like thousands of separate transactions is actually one enormous network, and right in the center of it is you. Authorities launch one of the largest financial investigations the country has ever seen. Documents pile up. Transaction histories get analyzed. Corporate records get traced. The deeper investigators dig, the bigger the system appears. News spreads quickly, but before the public knows the full story, authorities make their move. One night in Ho Chi Minh City, you're asleep in your home, comfortable, safe, untouchable, or at least that's what you think. Then suddenly, loud knocks at the door. Not the friendly kind. Investigators enter the house. They take your phone. They start collecting documents. Every room begins getting searched. For years, you operated quietly behind the scenes, one of the most powerful figures in the country's business world. And now, you're under arrest. Once the news breaks, your bank's depositors rush to withdraw their money. Lines begin forming outside branches. People want their savings back. Confidence in the banking system begins to shake. And the empire you spent decades building starts collapsing overnight. When people look back at the rise and fall of Trương Mỹ Lan, it almost doesn't feel real. She started with a small fabric stall, then made her way up and built a real estate business, then created a huge network of companies, and even controlled a bank behind the scenes. Billions of dollars were moving, and most people had no idea. It shows that big empires don't always start at the top. Even in the poorest countries, they can begin in small markets. But too much power can change people. Greed can take over. And when that happens, everything can fall apart. Even if you started from nothing.